I'm Hannah Croft.
And I'm Ava Truckee, and this is Feed Me Your Stories,
A show about food, pleasure, and community, hosted by two best friends who don't have inside voices.
Hi, Ann.
Hi, Ava.
Hi, Liam.
Hello.
Welcome back to Feed Me Your Stories. I feel like it's been a minute since we've actually recorded an episode together.
My husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, we took a...
Because you were sick and my brain broke.
I talked about Halloween because you don't like Halloween.
I don't not like Halloween. Like, I feel like... Okay.
It's you're a Halloween adjacent kind of a gal.
I enjoy Halloween, but I'm not, like, obsessed.
That's fair. Fair enough.
I didn't decorate my house.
You will when you have children.
Will we?
Oh my God, you have to. Otherwise, I'm coming over and doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to.
It's going to be like a carving pumpkin type situation, right? Like,
I'll go pumpkins for sure.
Okay,
I don't
deal.
know if I want to, like, get on the ladder and put things on the house.
I'll get on the ladder.
Okay.
And you guys will you'll carve the pumpkins.
You heard it here first, folks. Ava will be getting on a ladder and decorating our house for holidays for the foreseeable future. What happens when we move?
Done. I'm coming.
Out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Standing Halloween date.
Yeah. TT Ava will always do those things.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
And you're carving the pumpkins because I can't stand that. I'm always like, let's carve pumpkins. And by carve pumpkins, I mean, let's eat and drink and somebody else carve pumpkins besides me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like carving pumpkins. I don't know if I want to, like, I'm not a big fan of the scooping.
No,
Yeah,
you have to do a both and.
See, that's the part that, like, ruins it for me, is, like, I don't like the feeling of pumpkin guts between my fingies.
Yeah, it is a sensory bee-boop. I actually kind of enjoy it. What I don't love about it is how, number one, it's typically cold. And number two, it kind of makes me itchy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like especially when it starts to dry.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, tell me something about something lovely you've eaten recently, will ya?
What's something lovely that I've eaten recently? Oh, we went on a little date on Saturday night, and we had this pesto pistachio risotto at Cart
That was
Driver.
really good.
Oh,
It
you
was
did? Okay, good.
Yum.
Yeah.
It was real good.
I told you that they had some fire pasta, not pizza things on that menu.
Yeah. And it was really yummy. And then we got a pizza that had fennel and, like, merguez sausage on it.
Yes.
And it was bomb.
Saw that. There was something else, and I was like, should we, because we went to Cart Driver on Monday, and he was like, should we get this? And then there was one with, like, mushrooms on, and I was like, oh my God, that looks so good. And then we ended up getting the daisy because it's $6 on happy hour, and Maddox was housing oysters, and so we were like, well, we're going the cheaper route.
Yeah, that's fair.
With the exception of Cart Driver,
Cart Driver.
Emphasis syllable. I cooked a lot last week, which felt really good, and then at the end of the week, I was like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I don't want to do any more kitchen witching. But that felt good to, like, get back into the kitchen fairly consistently and cook for the folks. I made, like, my first loaf of no knead bread of the season because generally speaking, that's the only kind of bread I fuck with. I really want to make milk bread.
Ooh, yeah.
We need to talk about I'm not going to say it. It starts with a T. I don't want to butcher it. Tangzhong.
Oh, yeah.
I think that is how you pronounce it, right?
Like Tongzong or something.
Tongzong. Yeah.
I don't speak Japanese, though.
You know what I'm talking about, though. Yeah.
Like the kind of a ruse situation.
Yeah, slurry situation to make your bread hella bouncy and more shelf stable.
That's what I do for the rolls that I made at Christmas.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And like how they get real pillowy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I want to do it with some cinnamon rolls.
Mm.
Yeah. So that's on my to make list currently.
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
What's something delicious you've eaten in the past week
That was
or so?
nice. I mean, you know how we feel about, like, simple but good food. It was nice to do that. And I made, like, a big ass pot. Oh, those beans and greens that I fed you.
Yeah, those were delicious.
I love stuff like that.
Yeah.
Simple, straightforward.
Yeah.
Also, like, there really is just such a big difference between like soaking and cooking your own beans and not using canned beans.
Mm-hmm.
But weeknight situation, I don't give a fuck. I will use canned beans all day long.
Absolutely.
And I absolutely did that.
Even on weekends, I feel like.
Yeah, whatever. And I love, like I said, I mean, I really do love like soaking and doing all of my beans from scratch. And when I don't have time, store-bought's fine.
Yep.
Oh my God, the caramel. Oh, for fuck's sake. God, I tried to make caramel and that was not, I'm not a candy maker, you guys. It was so hard and crunchy, and it was nothing about it. And my kids were like the best sports about it. I mean, like literally, it was like, and like there's
like break your teeth.
No, seriously, and they were just trying like so many, and then finally Mooney was like, "Can we cut it?" And so then I'm like trying to slice, and it's just like. It's so hard that it is literally like shattering off of the apple.
Oh my God.
And both they still were like trying to like nod. And I was like, you guys don't have to eat them. And she's like, no, Mom, it's good. And I was like, I love you so much. And there is nothing about any of that right now that is good. So God, so blessed. Again, let me just store-bought is fine. So that's
store-bought is
fine. Ina Garten said it first.
She knows.
Yeah, she knows.
So you may have noticed that there's another voice in here today because we have a guest.
What?
And it's Liam.
It's Liam Donovan.
It's Liam Donovan.
That's me.
My husband-elect.
Yeah.
Pre-husband.
Pre-husband-elect. Welcome.
How's it going, Liam Donovan?
It's going. It's like a nice, cool autumn day, which is my favorite kind of day.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
I was halfway through eating a treat that I made before we started recording. I was instructed to not eat during the recording, so. Yeah.
You're welcome, everyone.
You're welcome. Yeah. For those of you with the what's it called?
Misophonia.
Yeah.
It's a crunchy snack too.
Yeah.
Not ASMR.
Yeah, it's doing well.
What is something delicious you've eaten over the past week or so?
I think probably the pizza that we had on Saturday. I almost said Friday. I've been working a lot, so I've been eating a lot of garbage food this week. So that's really the only thing that I was excited about.
Tell the folks at home about what you made yesterday.
So I made a babka with baklava flavoring. So it had some nice little pistachio walnut crumble in there, and the syrup. It's been something I've wanted to make for a while, but it's been summer, so we can't really turn our oven on. So,
yeah. I also ate the babka, and I thought it was delightful.
Yeah,
I don't like babka, and I thought it was really good.
The bread part of it needed some work. I will say that, but otherwise, it was quite yummy.
Yeah, I like it. The dog likes it.
Yeah.
Little shit.
He ate half of the dates that I bought that were going to go into it, so.
Well, it's date light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Easy on the dates.
Okay, so something that we like to do on the podcast, I've done it, you've done it, and now it's Liam Donovan's turn, is we get into like what's your food story?
Yeah.
Tell me about where you came from.
My food origins.
Yeah, exactly.
I am one of 5 children, so there's different phases to my food journey depending on how many kids were in the house at any given time. Mm-hmm. Most of the dinners that I remember as like an adolescent were Costco frozen situations.
Store-bought is fine.
Yeah. That's the title of the episode.
Yeah. Most food was store-bought. So those are, I feel like that I didn't really get to start. I wasn't a person that like enjoyed food for food until like after
You were an
college.
eat for necessity kind of
Eat for sustenance. I was a swimmer in high school, so it was like, how can I eat the most calories in the shortest amount of time? Was pretty much how I thought about eating for like 7 years, which isn't really great. I mean, like, yeah, no, mostly not great way to think about food and consumption. I mean, yeah, I think I like really started to kind of explore and enjoy food when I was in college, and like I think there was like some embarrassment at all of the foods that I like didn't enjoy eating that seemed very like juvenile. Like I wasn't really a person that ate salads until I went to college, and so like eating greens was something that I had to like learn how to do and enjoy. Like sushi was one that I was always like embarrassed about. Those kinds of things of like we didn't really branch out to like different nationality as of cuisine. It was mostly just like, I mean, we got like frozen chicken or like frozen orange chicken at Costco. That was like about
the extent
as international as we got. So yeah, that was kind of like where it started. I think there was like some when I was very young, before some of the siblings came around. I think we probably spent more time on food, but then that was also when I was quite a bit younger, and so
did either one of your parents enjoy cooking? Like, do you feel like a lot of the like pre-made stuff and frozen stuff was done out of like a number of children or like a time thing, or did they just like genuinely not really have like a passion for being in the kitchen, or is it a both and?
I think it's a both and. I think there are things that they enjoy making, but I don't think, and certainly, I mean, like with 5 kids, timing and everything is the name of the game for most things that you're doing. So I think like a lot of it was just necessity. Like, okay, we have 17 after school activities to do today, so we're not cooking today. But I also don't think that there is I wouldn't say that either of my parents have like a passion for food.
Okay. Even still?
Yeah. I mean, even when we went home for Christmas this past year, like
we did most of the cooking.
Yeah, like the kids really took over the kitchen. And I think that they were very fine with that. But like there are some dishes and things that we do or that they do that are like, I don't know, kind of staples in their cooking. But yeah, I wouldn't say that it's like a joyful thing for them.
That's not where they are picking up their pleasure spoons.
Right. Both of my parents are very like, for lack of a better word, left-brained people. They're very analytical and precise. And so I think the parts about cooking that I like, which is kind of like, going off script and like finding new and fun ways to like adjust what we're cooking or like find, different ways to make things, like that's not really them.
What about your siblings?
It's funny. I think I started kind of getting interested in food, or I think my like exploration into, okay, I'm going to learn how to cook food and like make good food came from my older brother. I think part of that was just because he was the oldest, and so he had to do those things for himself first. So I got like a lot of my early food knowledge of like how to cook things and how to make good food from him and from like cookbooks that he passed down on me.
Which you have now passed.
I have now passed on
to my little brother, which is sweet.
But he is, I think, very much like my parents in that he has a very like analytical brain, and so there's like a similar kind of like, I need to do this way every time to make it perfect. Like the book that he gave me is from like American Test Kitchen, that is like this is exactly how you want to make these things. And
every single time.
If you do this wrong, it'll come out tasting like this, and that is bad. And so I think like I think that makes like cooking more stressful than it needs to be for them. But I think my older sister has like, I think that is where I kind of have gotten more of my like, like let's explore food kind of deal. I think that is like more her line of thinking, and how like her partner, her spouse, is also the person that kind of like, I think, introduced me to a new way of thinking about food. That is not just like making food to feed myself, but like making food for the sake of making food and enjoying it.
The pleasure part of it.
Yeah.
So
and then my younger siblings, I don't really know how they necessarily conceptualize food. My younger brother is, I think, very much on board with the frozen Costco stuff. I don't think that's something that he's really grown out of. And I don't, I think my little sister is also kind of in that phase of like, oh, there's like more food that exists beyond the borders of North America. And so like she recently visited my sister and her spouse while they were, shortly after they had their kids, and they went on like a San Francisco date and like had all of these new things.
She had boba for the first time.
And, so I think she's still kind of like figuring that out for herself.
I mean, to be clear, you know, Anaya grew up in some ways somewhat similar. You know, that
geographically was very nearby.
Yeah, and you know, his dad was single when Anaya was 7, and so a lot of that was like, I'm gonna feed you guys for the for the sake of, you have to eat in order to
keep
stay
you alive.
Yeah. Like, so here's a food and eat it. But I mean, he's gotten, I mean, you know him and like his palate and whatnot. But this year I was thinking about boba and how this is the first year that he had, I was like, I really want a boba. And he's like, I've never actually had one. And I was like, what? So there we were, door dashing boba. Yeah.
It'd be like that sometimes, as they say. So when did food, like, because I feel like I met you when you had like some concept of like food as a source of like pleasure and satisfaction and joy.
Something that you wanted to explore more outside of, how do I keep myself alive?
Like, do you have a distinct memory or like a dish that you made that was kind of that like aha moment catalyst for you?
I don't know if there was necessarily like a dish like that. I think there was a phase where I wanted to make more and new and different and exciting food, but I was like a single person living with roommates, and so like there wasn't like an opportunity to do that. You know, like that is something that there's like a lot more labor involved, and then you have so much more food, and so it just like never made sense to do that. But I think like when we started dating, I think that was an of like, okay, now there is another person that I'm cooking with, and another person to eat food, and more importantly, another person to help me clean all this shit up.
In addition to the cleaning part, I do think that there is something to be said about that, though. You know, like I always had a passion for food, even as a kid, because I did come from lots of folks that did love to cook. And then, I mean, I still did. And then a lot of it was just like lack of resources. Like I couldn't. And then I remember dating a person that worked in kitchens and he was a good cook. And that sort of was like, oh, now this is all making sense. And I think that it makes things way easier to navigate if you can kind of navigate that with another person.
Right. Yeah. And I think like, you know, when I was in college, like potlucks were a really like key way to kind of do that, because there's that kind of like shared element of it, like, okay, I only have to worry about making one dish,
Right.
and like that's something that I can do. I can explore and like find like new and exciting things to make. And there's enough college kids making food that like someone's going to make something awful, and so there's less pressure to make something, like knock it out of the park. I'm gonna put that in a different.
Just so the background sounds are
they're not my children.
It's that the dog has a severe case of give me the attention right now, and is throwing around a squeaky toy and doing his tippy taps.
You're welcome.
He's gonna get a manicure later today.
Everybody is welcome.
Yeah, so you're welcome for that canine ASMR.
Yeah.
So now when you think about like if you are oh my god.
Don't worry.
Liam hid the toy and Chesler went and found it.
He got it. He's got it again.
In the bathroom. I thought it
No, he's determined.
Oh boy.
Oh.
Yeah,
well, this is what it sounds like in our house on a Monday morning.
Uh-huh.
Checks out.
This is accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, we always said that we were going to keep it real on this podcast.
Yeah.
So,
well, the dog is on one. He was probably wired from all the sugar from all of those dates that he ate yesterday. Little monster. So while the dog is often a source of displeasure, can you talk a little bit about how bread became like an important part of your like self-care and pleasure practice?
Yeah. I mean, that was like many people, a product of COVID. I knew that I wanted to start making sourdough, I think because there's like a certain amount of pretension that I carry around, and like this idea of doing everything from scratch
Makes you feel cool.
Yeah, like store-bought is fine, but also like I feel like a worse person if I have to settle for store-bought. And so this being able to take something that is literally just very basic ingredients and turn it into something wonderful has always kind of appealed to me. And because I have my parents like analytical brain, the science behind
that's what I was gonna say, that makes sense to me, that would appeal to you most, is like something that has is very precision driven.
Yeah, and I think one thing anyways, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but basically I started making bread or started making sourdough during the early days of COVID. Got my starter going. Took fucking forever to start. But then I made my first bakes like a month and a half into COVID. And then, I mean, it just kind of became, it was something that fit very well into the like shit context that we were given.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know. I think like I was working from home at the time, and it's like the perfect work from home thing to make, because it's like, all right, here's this thing that's going to take 6 hours, and I literally just need to do like 2 minutes of things to it every hour.
Yeah.
And so it was really easy to fit in around like Zoom meetings and conference calls and stuff like that. And it also was a time where like we couldn't do anything. Like we couldn't do old things, we couldn't do new things, we could do fun, or
we're making bread inside the house.
Yeah, and so that was just like, okay, this is this new thing that I'm getting to explore amidst a time of awful monotony and like, I mean,
bad
bad
stuff,
like monotonous terror every day.
If it's going to be monotony, let it be bread.
Yeah. And so that again, that just kind of like fed a lot into how I understand or like think about the world, and like there is a certain amount of like precision to it and like science-ness, but also once you get an understanding of like some of those things, then it means that you don't have to be quite as precise and like exact with it, because it's like, okay, well, I know that I have added less water to it this time, and so I want to like make these adjustments later on in the process. Or like, oh, I fucked up and like forgot about it for an hour, and so this is like the state that it's in. Here's how I can adjust to it. So it just, I think like having that kind of fundamental understanding of like how flour turns into gluten and like how that turns into bread, really allowed me to like kind of I think the first couple of times I made bread were stressful because they didn't turn out exactly how I wanted to, and when things don't turn out how I want them to, I get upset because I've done a bad job. And so getting that understanding allowed me to like kind of worry less about those kinds of things, because if I fucked up, I knew how to fix it. And then there is a certain element of just kind of like, okay, I fucked up, whatever. Like, this is still bread. Like, it doesn't look good, but it still tastes good. And like, I can still put butter on it
and eat it.
And eat it.
And it's still homemade bread.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you run into bread baking for beginners, or like Bonnie O'Hare from Alchemy Bread, a cottage baker in California?
No.
That was one of the first folks that I came across when and her book is like very left brain and is like very science driven. And I appreciated that because I'm super right brain and like I needed that, like the precision and like the temps and the like measuring and that sort of thing. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. No, my like intro was tartine.
Okay.
I think I had a roommate at one point in college who got that book, and I remember looking through it. And one, it's just like a very sexy book. Like
tartine.
The pictures, the hands,
all
oh my
of
god,
it. Yeah,
so good. And I think it also is a really good kind of like beginner book of like, it provides a decent amount of explanation. But what really kind of like drove a lot of my knowledge and like understanding was a blog called The Perfect Loaf, and this dude is like an engineer, and so it's like it very much like fed into that, like, this is exactly what is happening kind of under behind the scenes or whatever. And so that helped me kind of get that fundamental baseline understanding that also allowed me to kind of explore other, and
it was bread was your catalyst.
Yeah. So yeah, now, I mean, bread has become a very important coping strategy for me. During the 2020 election, we were just like, there was bread everywhere.
There was like at least a loaf a day
during that like week where it wasn't called yet, but like there was so much vodkas and bagels and just fools. I wanted to complete the alliteration.
Yeah, that was good. Good job.
I was.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very familiar thing to like set back into now. Now there isn't quite as much like, oh God, I need to be very, like hover over it, because if I mess up, it's gonna go wrong. And now it's like, okay, like
you've settled into your bread bones.
I know what I'm doing. Yes.
Yeah. It's like a little bit more intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like bread was one of the things that really kept us connected to our community during like the height of COVID, like the height of lockdown, because you would like make 2 loaves at a time, and we would take the extra loaf and deliver it to somebody.
Yeah.
And even if we didn't get to like see our people or talk to our people, we got to like leave a loaf of bread on their stoop and say like, hey, miss you, love you, like, hope we can see each other again sometime soon.
Yeah. I think it's like the easiest way to share joy with people. Like,
yeah.
I mean, some people have different relationships with bread. I personally think that bread is like the best thing in the world. And so getting
I love
to,
bread.
yeah, I think that that's how everyone should think about bread personally, but to each their own. And so just getting to like share that with people is wonderful. And I think it's like a thing, like it can be celebratory bread, it can be like condolence bread. There's a lot of different ways.
I feel like you've made people birthday bread. You've made people, you just had a baby bread.
Mm-hmm.
You've made people,
like your baby's in the hospital bread.
Yeah.
Like all kinds of.
We have sad and happy kind of bread bites.
Yeah.
But
it's like, it is a kind of, like we've talked about a couple episodes back about like what's our go-to thing that we make for people when we're like on a meal train or something. Like
yours is bread.
Yeah.
You're making
and like bread is so like it's so comforting too.
Do we want to go like the cheese ball route of like breaking bread? Do we want to get in there? Or
it sounds like you're already there.
I already landed there.
Yeah.
Nobody's surprised. Oh man.
But I also there was like I feel like that year, like 2020, like you also got really, you experimented it in a lot of different ways, and I feel like you brought like Liza a loaf of challah that you made. Mm-hmm. Like there was, there were so many different ways that bread was the vehicle for us connecting in a time where connection felt really fraught. Mm-hmm. And that feels really like there's something really comforting about that. Yeah.
And I think that was also like a way to explore. I think my early bread, this like kind of tracks with how 2020 processed, but like my early bread forays were all like cis het white dudes, and then like the George Floyd protests happened, and then it was like, oh, I need to like expand my understanding of bread, and that led me to like a lot of different cool like not white bread bakers. Mm-hmm. Like I think it's a really easy, like not easy, but it's a good vehicle for like, because all cultures have bread in some way, and finding different ways to make bread and like learn about different cultures and like how they enjoy bread and how they make it and why they make it that way. Mm-hmm. Is a really like, it's, I don't know, this is like very, I don't know, it's like everyone, it's this like kind of tie that binds everyone.
Right. Yeah. In the same way that like every culture eats rice, mm-hmm. every culture has some kind of bread.
Well, and I think too, like you said, it's like in ways that you can begin expanding, like, oh shit, I happen to really like curry. Oh, well, there's like literally thousands of different curries from different regions, depending on where you're at. I think that not only does it encourage you to branch out and like look at the scope of everybody and all of their breads, but yeah, I think that it's cool that you like invest in ways that can expand there's not just cis het white dudes making bread, and also there's like bread from over here that I think that it's like a nice starting point to like immerse yourself in culture, not just through food, but through like a humanitarian lens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Neat. If you like sat down and had a conversation with someone who was like, I really want to start making bread and I'm overwhelmed. There's so much information. There's so many resources.
You'd be like, I have this sexy book for you. It's called Turkey.
You want to come while making bread?
Intersection to food and pleasure. There it is.
Liam doesn't have like stacks of Playboys. He has stacks of bread mags. That's good.
Yeah.
And I'm a very doughy person, so it works out.
Let me squeeze your bread, girl.
Oh no. Well,
I mean, there's always a point in which we go off the rails in every episode, and
here we are.
The train has departed.
There's a question somewhere.
But like, any advice? Anything like
for the beginner?
Yeah.
I think I would find one recipe and like rather than like trying to absorb all that information from all these different places, find one source, figure out how to do it from there, and then like once you have that kind of like understanding and once you feel confident doing that, then start exploring.
Wouldn't you agree that that's like it with cooking in general, especially if you feel like
I feel
it's
like
not
that's
in your wheelhouse? Like just pick a thing, right? Like too many folks, they're like, I'm gonna find a marinara recipe, but I'm gonna find 45, and then I'm gonna like do a bee boop over here, and I'm gonna like pick this apart. Just find one thing for now. If and it's bread or anything else,
right? And so much of the information is also like contradictory, and so it's just like you're going to be frustrated and overwhelmed.
First.
And like especially if you don't really know what you're doing, like none of that is going to make sense and it's going to piss you off and you're going to give up. So I think find one thing that you want to get good at, learn it that way, and then like once you feel confident doing that, then start looking at other ways. And also just at the core, know that bread is really hard to be bad, like truly bad. It happens. It can be done, but it's most often like still going to be bread, and that can't be bad. So like I think,
would you say that bread has helped you have more compassion for yourself?
He's like, no, do you hear myself?
I think it's helped me fake it.
Oh no, this bread sucks. So do I.
I mean, speaking of like food, my mother was always these ribs could have been done better if I had just done this. Like,
she's a martyr cook.
Yeah, like very much deflecting any positive feedback for like, well, okay, this is how it sucks though. Which is something I talk about in therapy on a very regular basis. But so I think like, yes, there's a certain amount of like, I've gotten better at accepting fuck ups, but I don't know if I've necessarily in those moments still feel a lot of compassion for myself. But I think it has kind of gotten me to a place of knowing like, okay, there will be other opportunities to make this good, even if it sucks now.
There's softness in learning and patience.
Yeah. I still am not really good at being nice to myself.
Me either.
But
we're all working on it.
I probably am better than I was, and a lot of that was probably because of bread. But
I agree. I think too, like, no, it's when generally speaking, if I'm doing a bake, it's for money, right? So if I fuck it up, the amount of self-compassion that I have is almost non-existent. That said, you know, when I'm doing a thing at home or whatever, the fucking caramel, you know what I mean? I began to read and somebody else had mentioned like, oh, higher elevation. I don't know about you. I have never, with the exception of like being able to like biscuits, for example, like the humidity or lack thereof in the air, like I can eyeball how much hydration I need to add or not given the day. But like I don't take into consideration high altitude with my bakes. I never have. And somebody had said something about high altitude and boiling temps and blah blah blah, and I was like, oh yeah, I had no fucking idea. And also, guess the next time I'm going to make caramel, I'm not.
Never.
I'm not.
Big note.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I think that was a thing when I was like first trying to figure out how to do it and was fucking up a lot. I was like, oh, it's got to be elevation, and like dove into
like, no, like,
how can I adjust for elevation, and it was basically like, no, you just kind of suck.
No.
Like I think there are obviously very like fundamental differences of baking at elevation versus
but some people want to die on that hill. Like some people are like, you have to adhere to baking at high altitude or your bakes are going to be fucked.
I mean, I think it's the same, like, yes, that is true. And like, you're gonna, like, you have a different scale every time, or like the measuring cups you use are going to be slightly different sizes. And so those sorts of changes are always going to like come out in the wash anyways. And so I think you still need to understand how those differences show up even in the absence of elevation. Like, I agree. That is a thing that is going to change slightly every single time you bake. And so you have to make the same adjustments. And then, I don't know. I think like more than anything, I think the hardest thing for me in terms of like baking and what I thought, like, I have a shitty oven, and like that was significantly more important to figure out and like work around
than high altitude. Agreed. Yeah.
I was gonna say a thing. There was a thing. Oh, fucking up food. I think.
Are you about to roast me?
No. I wasn't going to, but
he's like, but now if you give me opportunity.
Here. No, I think I'm much better when other people fuck up food at being like, okay, this is like not the end of the world. We have other things that we can eat. In particular, I was thinking of when I was in Oakland visiting my sister, and we were making pizza in their uni, and not to like put her on blast, but she did not sufficiently flour the like pizza dough and the peel, and so it got stuck on it, and it was like they all fell on it.
It was a big old mess.
It was a big old mess. But like we had more pizza dough, and like
it was fine.
It was like it. I mean, it wasn't. That pizza was not fine. That was pretty much ruined. But there was like this. Okay, like whatever. If that one sucks, there's still another opportunity to make pizza, and if that sucks, there's still other food that we can eat. And like, even if this thing doesn't come, like, I think I have gotten better at looking at like, there are other things that we can eat, and there are other ways that like we can work around this fuck up. Like even if it means pivoting and changing course, or like, all right, we're just gonna eat mac and cheese tonight. Like that's not a bad thing. Like I'm never gonna feel bad about eating Annie's mac and cheese. I was
gonna kick my own shit and be like, nope, I'm not there. I don't have any self-compassion for when I fuck shit up. But I'm gonna take that back, because I told you earlier last week that I was like, okay, I love going to the grocery store, but I also go to the grocery store way too much, and I could do a lot better of like assessing what I already have and like building off of that. And so I was like committed to doing that this week, and I was like, I'm gonna do this like delicata squash salad with like farro and blah, and I found like this hunk of meat way back in the freezer, and I was like, I'm gonna do a tiny baby pot roast. And like, long story short, this cut of meat was like not what I thought it was. And I was like, all right, it's all good, because we're still gonna do the things to it, and we're just gonna whack it in the Instant Pot.
It's gonna be fine.
It's gonna be fine. And then it wasn't fucking fine. And I was like, we're gonna eat a fucking rotisserie chicken and a box of rice pilaf. And roasted Brussels sprouts, and it was nothing of what I originally planned on eating. And once I like took the meat out of the Instant Pot, and it was literally like I could have made a coat because it was leather. I was like, oh, okay. No, I just like put it. Mooney was like, "There's a steak in the trash." Mom, why is this steak in the trash? I was like, shut up, buddy. I'm not gonna tell you. Put your shoes on. We gotta go get a rotisserie chicken. They're like SSRIs.
Oh man. Well, just so everybody knows, I'm the one who throws a giant pity party when I fuck up a meal.
I mean, I do too, for real. But also, this was like we have 4 minutes to go get your brother. The steak's going in the fucking trash. We don't have time for this. We gotta go. There was no spoons to even kick my shit in that day. No time. Had no time.
Yeah.
And also, when's the last time you had a box of rice pilaf? Shit is a fire.
I don't know if I've ever.
I was a box couscous girly.
Do y'all do rice-a-roni? I did rice-a-roni as a kid.
No, we had my family got very into the microwavable Ben's Ready Rice pouches.
Did y'all ever do the Knorrs? The noodle vibes?
The Knorrs, like Mexican rice. Yeah.
Or like the weird like Parmesan noodles. And the noodles were always like, so it didn't matter how you cooked it. It just didn't. But they were like this gelatinous. It was like a mold of noodles. Mm-hmm.
That was a little too exotic for
Parmesan. How do you pronounce this? Well,
on that note,
thanks for hanging out with us, Liam Donovan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. This is my first time I've been on a podcast.
Well, now you're famous.
Yep.
You're welcome.
You're a big deal.
We all hit it big, and people are going through the early catalog.
Like, who's this Liam Donovan? Stop. Make me some bread, daddy. Yeah, that's what they're going to say.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
Bread daddy. Oh my God, let's make t-shirts.
Let's make him an apron.
Oh, close your ears.
All right. We're going to go now.
We're Audi 5000.
Stay making choices, eat good food, be nice to yourself. Love you, bye.
Love you, bye.